Welcome to Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to New Mexicans by State Employees Credit Union, who have been proudly serving the families of New Mexico locally and abroad since 1958. State Employees Credit Union is ready to help you and your family with all your financial goals. And now, Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I am Diane, and the legislative session is still going on right here in Santa Fe, and we're glad to have a program today to highlight some things you perhaps haven't heard before on the show, because we have a new state senator who has some new ideas, and he says that, you know, everything you hear in state government you've heard before, but some of these things I haven't heard, so we're going to talk about that. And we have a longtime state senator who is very interested in our rural development areas and also jobs. So please stay with us as we discuss the economic development of the state of New Mexico, and again, a lot of the rural issues that we don't sometimes touch upon on the show, so please stay with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready for a more rewarding financial experience? Get local decisions on loans and accounts from people that live and work in your communities. Join State Employees Credit Union today and start getting rewarded. Thank you. Also get up to $250 cash when we refinance your auto loan. Stop by one of our offices, give us a call, or go online and find out just how easy it is to make the switch to a locally owned and operated financial institution.
Man, I love my credit union.
Me too.
Welcome back to the program. So pleased that we have a new state senator with us today. State Senator Pat Woods from Broadview, right over by Clovis. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And we're going to talk about a lot of rural issues that we sometimes don't touch upon here in the show. So
well, great.
And about the transfer of public lands. That, to me, is something new. So we're going to talk about that on the show.
Okay.
And also Senator Sue Wilson Beffort, thank you so much. You've been here in the past.
Yes, the old folks.
The big sister is with us 17 years and the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee. That's a big job.
Well, I sure know a lot more now, 17 years into the job, than I did when I was brand new. So it's actually a major responsibility, and I take it very seriously.
One thing you have in common, other than the fact that you're in the state Senate, one 17 years, one new, is that you do represent a large part of our rural communities. Your districts are quite rural, and yes, your legislation reflects that. One thing that you have in common is your Frontier Communities program and your Main Street. I've heard of the Main Street, but the Frontier is kind of intriguing. Tell me a little bit about that,
Senator
Senator
Frontier
Woods.
program has to do with communities 5,000 population or less, and this is to have a Main Street program, so to speak, in those smaller communities. And a lot of times those communities revolve around a cultural site, a town square, or a museum, or a old theater. And this will give that money to those cultural sites.
For mainly tourism, people in the local communities to enjoy them, but also encourage people to come to
Yes, both a drawing point for tourism and a highlight for the people that are there to enjoy and to remember back when.
I like to reminisce. I do like to remember back when. I especially like the old photos, the black and white photos. Tell me a little bit about a few of the communities. Name them for us. I know you're on the eastern part of the state, around Clovis, Portales
there's
area.
actually 31 communities that this would hit.
Oh my gosh.
Such places, they're incorporated communities, such as, the small communities of Des Moines, but a larger community like Clayton, Tucumcari, little places called Grady, little places called Cliff.
No, I don't know Cliff and Grady and Des Moines,
well,
so tell me a little bit about them.
Well,
they got a theater, I bet, or maybe not.
Des Moines is a little ranching town up north that one of their claim to fame is a volcano up there at Capulon. And one of the main things that you can visit when you go to Des Moines is one of the largest extinct volcanoes in the area. And Grady is actually where I went to high school. And there are so many old buildings in Grady that hopefully that could be fixed up and make somewhat of a tourist attraction. And Cliff is way down south, way down in the southern part of the state, another ranching community that one of the main things there is the Gila cliff dwellings. And so
Yes,
there's,
of course,
there's
I've heard of those.
many separate places in the state that might benefit from this money, that might draw a few more tourists, might create a few more jobs in those towns.
Very good, very good. I love going back. We have to go drive by and see those. Thank you so much. You have the same idea, Senator Sue Wilson Beffort, a little closer to the metro area. You do represent a rural part of the state, but just over the mountain. Tell me a little bit about your district and your Main Street area programs.
Well, I now represent Moriarty, all of Moriarty. I've always helped them and worked with them. I've always helped Edgewood, and although I've never had both of those communities as a consolidated base. And they have very unique features, problems, things that really need a lot of attention in terms of money and all the other things that rural areas do need. But what's very exciting for me to hear about the small frontier Main Street bills, I'm carrying one of the Main Street bills as well. And what I think is very invigorating for us is we're kind of trying to come out of a recession, and everybody knows about Santa Fe. We love Santa Fe, but the average person in New Mexico, wouldn't it be great to be able to get in your car on a Friday afternoon and go to Roy or go to Jow or go to Moriarty? One of the bills that I'm carrying is called the microbrewery bill, and that's a wonderful new bustling industry in New Mexico where you have these neat little breweries that now can have sandwich shops and people can stop and have an exotic beer. These are not things like you get a six-pack out of a 7-Eleven or something. You stop in there to really have a neat experience, and it dovetails with the Main Street. So what we want to do with these programs, and concentrating much more in this next term, not just this time, it's going to take a lot of money and time to build these places up, is to spruce these Main Streets up. We're going to be extending the Route 66 through the Moriarty Edgewood area, maybe with a big regional flea market that people will want to get in their car and come down. But we have to spruce up these main streets. They have to be attractive, they have to be painted well, neat lights, planters, all kinds of neat art objects and so on, so that tourists are going to want to stay and think, oh, there's that old theater. And let's stop, and maybe there's going to be a play tonight or something, and let's have an exotic beer and stick around, and then we can go up and see the volcano and so on. But
and spend money. But actually, the key is to spend money in these
that's exactly
communities.
right. But people don't go to these little towns if they're not attractive, if there's nothing really for them to do, if they can't sit down in a fun little sandwich shop or maybe have a neat glass of wine or something of that nature. So this is a movement that really, since I've been serving on the Rural Economic Development Committee, I'm really seeing that we have to be able to create the image that there's more to New Mexico than Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and Las Cruces.
That's true. Senator Woods, and if we don't do it now, these dilapidated buildings are going to fall down and we won't have anything to restore if we don't do it.
Exactly, and that's the problem. We're trying to protect our heritage. We're trying to protect what many things happen in the, as you say, the Route 66 went right through Tucumcari. That was the gateway to New Mexico. And on down the road was San Juan. That at that point in time, Route 66 went right straight down through the center of every one of those towns. And those old buildings that should be, painted up, like you say, some murals put on. It could really dress it up and really invite people to come to New Mexico to drive that old Route 66, to see how exciting that time was. It's an amazing time in our history.
And if we don't invest in it now, it might be lost forever.
It could very well be lost forever.
How long have we had the Main Street program? And we've heard about it across the United States, but here in New Mexico, Senator?
I couldn't speak to that.
But
I know that for many, many years there has been a Main Street program, and it's you have to go through a sophisticated grant process, and many times you need some assistance, with that type of sophisticated grant writing, which a lot of these small communities don't have. But we have art and cultural districts that are able to have grants for these places so that you could, get assistance that way. One of the bills that I'm doing this time is with the UNM Architectural School, whereby their students and interns can go out to these communities and at no cost to the communities do some preliminary blueprints, and here's how you can put your median in, and here's how the landscaping can look, and here's how we might be able to, put a new front on your movie theater and different things. And so it's great for the student. It saves money for the communities. And so I'm just very invigorated about, the possibility of really jazzing up New Mexico and making it so that really people on limited means can just take a day off and go up there and spend the night. We have a golf tourism industry now too, so that people can go and play golf here and play golf there, maybe stay and spend some money and have a steak dinner at some little town. And
that's exciting.
That's what's beautiful about New Mexico.
What I've heard, and what's interesting, of course, you're from here and you know this better than I, but it was told to me by some Germans who came. When they look at the United States, a large city, San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, they're all large cities. But when they think of the West, this is it. We have it. It's your backyard.
Well,
it's
true.
New Mexico.
But you look at these small towns like Vaughan that still have an old depot, railroad depot, and Clovis still has a railroad depot. Those are classic buildings. Classic. Tucumcari still has a railroad depot. And what they're doing with those old depots to bring them into a culture setting, to have plays, like you say. They have community jam sessions. The local musicians get together there in Tucumcari at the museum at the old depot. So
the viewers can people who live in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, of course, they watch it throughout the whole state. They can just jump on I-40 or 285 and go to your communities.
Right.
Okay, easy.
Exactly.
And it's very important for maintaining our school districts as well. One thing that happens is as the population migrates into the urban areas, then obviously the school count goes down. If a small community loses a school, then they basically become a ghost town. Because the school is the center point for your children and your family and so on. Another one of the bills that I think is very important for rural communities that I am working on has to do with service industries. So you don't really have to live in Albuquerque to do business with the labs or one of the big firms, but what happens because we do charge a tax on services is that if you do business with a very nice organization, they say, oh, we have a branch in Colorado, we'd like you to bid on that. Well, we pay the tax when we're doing business in New Mexico, but if you have to pay that tax when you're going out of state, then you're going to lose the bid because we charge it, the other states don't. So it's been
on services such as architectural services or it could tax be, services or designing services.
Certainly computer design and so on that has to do with software. And as you're talking about labs and potential contractors that may lose their job if we have any problems with our federal funding, we'd like them to stay in New Mexico. These are our best and brightest.
These are the designers right now at Sandia Labs. If with the federal government they cut back, they might lose their jobs and they might move out of state, but you're suggesting they stay.
So we want them to stay. These are the kinds of wonderful citizens that New Mexico relishes. And even if it's in between jobs, getting something else as a new big company comes in, that they can be contractors and do business with the local groups. And then if they have a branch out of state that they can also bid on, they won't have to charge that tax.
So the yours is asking to eliminate that tax for in-state businesses that bid out of state.
And you don't have to live in the the urban area, metropolis, what I was trying to
The
say.
big metropolis of Albuquerque.
You can live out in Edgewood, or you can live any place that you want to live and be able to do business in this manner when you're talking about a service industry.
Have you presented this bill previously? Sir?
It has gotten out of its first committee, and hopefully it's on its way.
But this is the first session that you're suggesting this.
Yes. Well,
get-
actually, no, that's not true. I did work on it in an earlier session, didn't make it through because the bill wasn't as understood as it should be.
And then again, keep the folks here, don't charge them the tax if they're doing work out of state, because they're going to leave the state entirely.
And they will still be paying the tax if they're doing business in New Mexico. And if they're not paying the tax when they're doing business with a branch, they're still going to pay income taxes, and their corporate or personal income taxes. They're still going to pay rent and all the other things. So it's a wonderful
we don't want to
bill.
lose them. Senator Woods, you have another interesting bill regarding the Transfer of Public Lands Act. Now, you're a rural person in terms of you're a farmer, rancher.
Yes.
Went to Grady High School. You told us that, shared us.
That's right.
Grew up in the eastern part of the state.
Yes.
Now, we have one of the 5th largest states landmass-wise in the entire union. Tell me about the percentage of federal land, state land, and what you'd like to do with the Transfer of Public Lands Act. What's the situation now? What's the problem? And how does your bill solve things?
In all state and federal land put together, and Indian reservation land, trust land, our state, that's over 50% of our state. All of those combined. But what we're talking about here is the land that is not Indian trust land, that is not monument land, that is not wilderness area, that is not military reservation. We're talking about the land that's in the BLM, in the Forest Service, that is being managed by the federal government, that we truly believe could be better managed by the citizens of New Mexico, for the citizens of New Mexico.
So not the Department of Defense land with the national parks, keep all those national parks, the defense, all of that, keep that, but it's the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and the Forest Service, those 2 pockets of federal land where the decisions are made in perhaps Washington, D.C. You're saying transfer those to the state so we can make
for the state management, yes, for state management.
Okay.
We truly don't believe, or I truly don't believe, that those lands are being managed to the best interest of the citizens of New Mexico. I think they're being managed by a bureaucracy far, far away from us, and we have no recourse to change any of their management whatsoever.
What are they doing wrong?
The main thing they're doing wrong with the Forest Service lands is they're actually managing that land, in my opinion, for the benefit of a endangered species, or a species that they want no management on the forest whatsoever. They want it to go pure back to as natural as they can. And the consequences of such things are 250,000 acre fires that literally, there could have been some environmental species burn up in those fires, who knows? We know for one thing, the devastation from those fires is going to be long lasting. That ash that burnt so hot in those fires will come down and pollute our streams for many years in the future. We need to manage those Forest Service lands with many fires, controlled burns, so that it makes a watershed to benefit New Mexico. And it makes a wildlife habitat to help our hunters and fishers. We have lands that I truly believe are completely mismanaged for water. And that brings us to the issue of the drought we have in our state. You see the damage up here around Santa Fe that the bark beetle did to the pinon tree. Now, a lot of that was, you may say that was strictly nature doing its thing. Well, if it was nature doing its thing, we should have went in there and at least harvested some of those dead trees for firewood for our local communities. There are many places in northern New Mexico that the land grant communities are totally being driven off of their lands They're multicultural lands because of the management of the forest. At times, they allowed them to have so many milk cows on those lands. They allowed so many saddle horses to be grazed on those lands. All those permits are being pulled away from.
And we're talking still about the Forest Service.
Yeah, the Forest Service. Those things are being taken away from them. They're ruining the old-time culture in northern New Mexico because some government employee employed by someone far away making a decision that, by golly, we should change culture in New Mexico. That is not such a smart thing to do. We're trying our best to maintain who we are. I believe that federal lands could be better managed by the citizens of New Mexico, for the citizens of New Mexico, both in watersheds. We need the water in our rivers. We need the resources that are in those forests. We need the timber to help our timber industry. We hardly have any logging out of those national forests.
They won't allow it. The federal government
won't allow it.
Isn't it wonderful to have a breath of fresh air, a new state senator representing the rural New Mexico that knows so much more about these issues than other people?
It's true. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, it's a lot of these things I hadn't heard before on our show. So it's wonderful to have you on to share with us your knowledge and to preserve, because we love New Mexico for what it has been.
If we didn't like New Mexico, we'd be living somewhere else.
That's true. What's the likelihood of the federal government saying, yeah, Senator Woods, take our land, you're right?
You know, I don't know. Utah has passed a law such as this. Arizona is in the midst of trying to do that law. We have, if you would look at a map of the federal lands controlled in the United States, you can nearly draw a line down the Mississippi River. Everything east of the Mississippi, there's very little federal lands. And the argument against this happening, they say, well, we've got to maintain our forest. I don't guess anybody's been to Georgia. I don't guess anybody's been to Minnesota.
They got some forest there.
There's lots of forest there, managed by the state and by private hands. But we have the capability of managing those lands in state with New Mexico citizens, and we would have a chance to vote for a land manager, a state engineer, a state
commissioner to handle it.
Yeah, to take care of our local, to put local input into management of those lands.
Very good.
And so I truly believe that this is a critical issue. If you ask me what the chances are, we will never know. But dare to dream. Dare to dream.
Well, you said Utah, our neighbors Utah and Arizona are trying it. Why not us?
That's exactly right.
And so sometimes these major concepts don't pass the first year, but to have someone with such a breadth of knowledge about those issues put the issue out and let it start being discussed, and then if it doesn't pass this year, we talk about it in our interim committees, and who knows, it could come back next year and pass. So this is the first time I've heard of this bill myself. I'm so excited about it.
It's true. Good. It's just not me. You know, share your experience the first time you worked on a number of issues, but the early childhood development and kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, you worked many years on that before it became a reality and something that's going to affect the future of our state. Share with Senator Woods and with our viewers about how long it does take to get a good idea up and running in the legislature.
Well, I'll never forget the full-day kindergarten bill. It was the biggest transition in early childhood education. And of course, we had taken away many years before I ever got up. We'd taken away the afternoon kindergarten, and it was very controversial. Some people called it babysitting, and so that really was the start of the ball running. Then we talked about pre-K, and the problem that we have in a state where we have so many poor people is that people that can afford private schools and and good child care centers and so on, they do that. We have wanted to upgrade our child care centers with regs, which I won't get into, but the child care centers now are showing test scores for pre-K that are commensurate to the public school scores. And so that's very exciting. I've always felt very strongly about means testing in terms of some of these earlier programs. Obviously, a poor state can't give everything to all families, but for instance, if you take a young teenage mother, which is hopefully never going to have another baby, but they find themselves in that situation, we want to get them so that they understand about waiting for getting married the next time, waiting to raise their family, go back to school. What is subtle
and
neglect?
You've been dealing with
leaving their baby in front of the television all day and things of that nature. So, we have to be very careful about our public programs, but to do them wisely so that hopefully as we get into the early years in school, that these children are going to be able to read by the third grade.
And this is the example, Senator, that it does take a while. But
It does.
Successful Senator Sue Wilson Beffort has been successful in this, and it's taken some years, but again, for the future. One thing that has been presented a number of times too is you have a House Joint Resolution, marriage defined. Tell me, we've got a minute left. Oh, less than a minute left. What is this bill and what could happen?
Well, this bill is just simply stating that a marriage is defined between a man and a woman. And it's very simple to me. I believe the core value of America is with the family unit. And I truly believe a family unit is a man and a woman.
And this would be a resolution going to the voters to
right.
vote on it again. And it's something Senator Sue Wilson Beffort, we've heard before in the legislature, right? This definition, it hasn't come about yet. People have voted against it, but if you keep plugging along, something could happen.
That's true.
That's your experience, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I'm just very excited about the new breath of fresh air that Senator Wood brings to our state Senate, and he's somebody that I know will be able to reach across the aisle, gain respect on both sides of the aisle, and pass some of these efforts.
As you have done in your distinguished career.
I've had different issues, but it does take somebody that understands very thoroughly the issue that you're trying to convey and to win votes for.
And it takes an effort, and thank you for your effort. As citizen legislators, we appreciate the time you've spent. 17 years up there, Senator. Congratulations.
17 years. It's been wonderful.
Very good. Thanks again for being on the program. We appreciate you and all your efforts. And Senator Pat Woods, thanks again for running. You've got in this new seat and for bringing these rural issues to our attention here in the program today.
Much.
Thanks. And thanks for watching the show. I am Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again to all of our legislators who are serving here in the state of New Mexico. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Are you ready for a more rewarding financial experience? Get local decisions on loans and accounts from people that live and work in your communities. Join State Employees Credit Union today and start getting rewarded. Thank you. Also get up to $250 cash when we refinance your auto loan. Stop by one of our offices, give us a call, or go online and find out just how easy it is to make the switch to a locally owned and operated financial institution.
Man, I love my credit union. Me too.
Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to New Mexicans by State Employees Credit Union, who have been proudly serving the families of New Mexico locally and abroad since 1958. State Employees Credit Union is ready to help you and your family with all your financial goals and is the exclusive sponsor of Issues and Answers with Diane Kinderwater in order to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a DVD copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.cc or call us at 505-345-1991.